And welcome to another buzzy, bleepy, bloopy edition of Ben's Junk. Yes, perhaps against my better judgment, I bought another synthesizer. Here's how it happened. When I was making my upgrades to the archive's gear last summer, like the camcorder and my lighting, I purchased a good chunk of that stuff on eBay via the Sweetwater or Best Buy eBay stores. And I did this on purpose because most weeks, I guess you could say, eBay will have a day or two in which you can earn like 5, 8, 10% back in eBay bucks. And so I managed to accrue well over $100 in doing this. And around the time I was finally able to cash in those Fleabay bucks was right about the time that I brought out my old Moog MG1 to try and work on some new incidental music for Archive. So I just had synths on the brain. And as I soon found out, Behringer, of all people, was now making synthesizers, particularly clones or approximations of early synthesizers. And the one that really caught my attention was the Neutron, which is what we've got here, this demonic blood red thing. But what interested me about it is that it seems to be a single module approximation of the original gigantic telephone switchboard styled Moog synthesizers from the 60s. So the Neutron was on sale for, I believe, $225, down from $300, and I had my $100 odd in Fleabay bucks. And the more I thought about it, the more it just made sense. Like the Neutron actually has a MIDI input. Well, I had to buy a new MIDI controller. I sold my old one when I moved, but I needed one again if I wanted access to virtual instruments so I could work on my little project. But yeah, the Neutron's about as close as I'm ever likely to get to experiencing an original 60s Moog. And my MIDI controller has a pitch bend on it, so that'll get me into mini Moog territory, early 70s. And the MIDI controller's got a sequencer built in, and those were starting to kind of sort of come around in the late 60s, early 70s. Yeah, so that'll help me out with some period appropriate sounds. You know what? I'll take it. And the final bill after tax and all was about $110. So I think I did pretty well. And then, of course, here's where old Benny Boy slams head first into a wall. So as of my shooting this, I've been playing around with this thing, at least in fits and starts, for over 3 months now. And I've only still kinda half figured out the knobs, and for the most part, the patch bay is just a mystery to me. I should note that me and patch bays don't get along very well, and I've always been like that. For whatever reason, I've just never been very good at them. But I should also note here that the original 60s Moogs were so complex and so unstable that Bob Moog himself required that, for a little while at least, a technician must always be on hand when one of his synths was in use. I could probably use the help now. I would have truly been screwed back in the 60s. But anyway, as such, my approach to this instrument, to date at least, has been akin to what Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees, who bought the third Moog ever made, I believe, what he was doing back in 1967. And what he was doing was just trying to coax whatever crazy sounds he could out of it. Alright, I'm going to have to do this demo with one ear in my headphones and I'm using a lavalier mic, which is on a short leash, and I'm going to have to fiddle around with knobs and patches and stuff here, so hopefully it doesn't get too awkward, but I can just about guarantee you it's going to get a little slow, and I'm probably going to bump the mic wire, occasionally. Just please bear with me. Anyway, like the original Moogs, we've got 2 oscillators here, and like the original Moogs, you have to tune your synth. So in this case, I've got the first oscillator tuned, and everything else is bouncing off of that. And also, the original Moogs are monophonic. You can only play one note at a time. You can kind of fudge that with this one. You've got paraphonic mode, which will let you do 2, but it somewhat impedes your palette, if you will. And actually, I find that I can get better results by tuning the second oscillator to either an octave or a sympathetic note, like a fourth or a fifth. Yeah, I'm just not a big fan of the paraphonic thing. But anyway, before I get into that, I've got this set to my standard tone, which I call my world's most perfect synth sound, which is a good old sawtooth, buzzy 70s progressive rock kind of thing. I do not have the oscillators synced at the moment, so it's not perfectly in tune, but I just like that flavor. I just kind of like it kind of wobbling a little. It sounds a little heavier. And of course, if I turn the sync on, it becomes kind of boring. Very precise, although it's fine if you're trying to do a solo, I guess. And just quickly, paraphonic, I'll do a fifth here, so I've got an F and a C note. So yeah, there you go with that. I don't really use that. But anyway, this knob up here, I've got set at 50% right now. So we've got an even mix of our 2 oscillators. And let's just play with that a bit. So let's favor oscillator number 1 only right now. And we can go through our octaves here. So we're at the highest setting right now. So we'll cycle through that. Got kind of a mixed mode there. Low, medium. And then we've also got our waveform types. So we're at sawtooth right now. We got a couple of square options. We'll go down to triangle. And then just a good old plain sine wave. Just a good old pure tone there. So we'll reset that. All right, let's bounce over to oscillator number 2 here. And you've noticed I've knocked this off, so actually we'll have to tune it now. Oh well, I guess it's a good thing. Very easy to knock this out of tune. All right, there we go. So now on to oscillator number 2. And this favors the lower tones. So medium, high, mixed, and low. The real deep, farty kind of stuff. And we'll just, the waveforms are the same, but they do sound a little different because of the change in octave. Now, when I'm in the square stuff, I can use this width adjustment, which I've got at neutral right now, so 12 o'clock. But you'll hear it kind of peeling overtones off as I turn it. So we'll go down to 0. And then up to 100. And we'll go back to my usual sound here, just for a bass line. There we go. All right, so let's at least hit the highlights of the rest of this. So we've got a filter knob here with 3 filters built in: high pass, a curved kind of thing, and low pass. So we got high pass here. which if I set it all the way, you're only going to get the uppermost sounds out of this. And then it'll come back the farther I go. So then we've got our curve. And then we've got our low pass. Which I actually really like. But let's go back to where I started here. So I can use these two knobs in tandem with each other, resonance and mod depth. And basically I can make kind of a volcano thing happen if I try hard enough. So we'll see what I get. There we go. Yeah, it gets really gnarly. Yeah, so that's kind of cool. And the VCA bias knob here just holds on to whatever the last note I hit was. So that'll definitely be useful later. And then we've got noise, which will add white noise. Or actually use the right knob. But that's more useful in the patch bay, because then I can go pure white noise with it. And we'll get back to the LFO, low frequency oscillator here. So then we get up into delay, which is where you can start getting some of those funky psychedelic things going on. So let's just get that last note I had, and let's just play with it a little. Kind of like a really high-powered motorcycle. Kind of a jet. So yeah, you can get some really interesting stuff out of that if you're willing to take the time. Now, over here we've got the overdrive section, which is a substitute for me not having this patch in. But I found that when I take the patch out, it just never sounds quite the same. It never sounds right to me. I mean, I think it's just personal preference. So let me just take that out and I'll show you what I mean. So as is with the overdrive section off, no patches, we're not going to get anything on the keyboard. So let's fix that. But I guess it's just personal preference because it just never feels the same to me. It seems like I have to be a lot more fidgety with it when I do it that way. So I just keep this basic little patch going here. All right, so down in the envelope section, I'll just do the first one here. We've got attack, delay, sustain, and release, the 4 parts you would expect. And I've got the attack and delay off, or decay rather, and sustain all the way up, and just a touch of release. So, because if I, that's how it is now, kind of a reverb. If I turn it off, it gets real dry. Real dry and real abrupt. So I just leave it up just to, so it's a little more pleasing. But anyway, let's turn up the attack here. So there'll be a bit of a delay between my hitting the note and you hearing it. Sustains up all the way so that it'll just ring as long as I hold the note, and then the release will be just that touch of reverb. Okay, we'll give it a little more. Now we can take out the sustain and have it be just whatever this dictates. So we'll turn up the D section here. So I'll hold down the note, but it'll rise and fall on its own. Just like so. But, just for functional purposes, I tend to do just sustain and a touch of release. All right, this stuff tends to be, for the most part, more useful with the patch bay, but I guess I will do the Porta thing, because we got to do the Keith Emerson moment here. So we'll turn the Porta up, Portamento, and that's the glide from one note to the next. So, you know what I mean, the Lucky Man sound. Yeah, just like that. All right, but now, unfortunately, I have to start playing with the patch bay, which, as I've mentioned, I am not very good at. But let's start with, let's do a white noise kind of soundscape here. So we'll just get some pure noise out into oscillators 1 and 2. And we'll turn up the noise all the way. We'll just do the auto note thing here. And I can add to that by hitting notes, do the kind of a gunshot thing there. But let's play with delay and maybe a little other stuff and see if we can't get kind of a sandstorm thing happening. Yeah. And that's what happens when the sandstorm gets nuked. So we'll come out of that. But yeah, you get the idea. All right, so you can do kind of a fake kind of sequencer thing here. Like on the MG1, I did the computer freakout sound, so we can do that here. So we'll go sample and hold into oscillator 1 and 2. We'll be looking at these two knobs. So we've got the rate at which the notes will alternate and glide if I want the notes to bend into each other. So we're just completely straight right now. But let's do the auto note thing here, the bias knob. And you can hear it's already kind of playing with the notes. I'll speed up the rate. Yeah, there you go. Computer freakout territory. Now we can make those notes bend into each other. Make it sound real good and drunk. Or he'll just play a solo for me. I don't have to do a thing. Alright, so that's how that works. So we'll turn that back off. We'll come out of that. And then we'll play with the attenuator a little here, which lets us just kind of dink around with the flavor of the sound. So I'll do the auto note thing again. Why not? Yeah, so you got that going on. And I'll do just one more basic patch here. Let's do the LFO, since I haven't covered that yet. LFO, again, to oscillator 1 and 2. So we're going to be playing with these two knobs here. So it'll be kind of doing the same thing that the sample and hold was. So I'll just play a note there. And you can hear it bending it, even though it's all the way down, so that's what that does. So we'll see what happens when you speed it up. Laser sounds. Kind of create my own sirens. Or some of the more out there Emerson, Lake and Palmer stuff. Alright, let's try some different stuff. We're at Sawtooth right now on the LFO. So let's just circle around here. And the patient died. True laser sounds. Science fiction stuff. That kind of bends the note. And that's where the demons hide. A synthetic motorcycle. Alright, and one more. So a mechanical rat, I guess, who just found his cheese. So I think you get the idea. And I guess I'll try, I mentioned the sympathetic note thing here, so let me just show that off here. I'm just going to play, I've been doing F most of this time, so F, and I'll tune up the second oscillator. We'll see if we can find a happy second note. Yeah, so I can kind of fudge a chord. I'm only playing one note here. I know it's not in the shot, but just trust me. Or I can go straight up into octave territory. So I can give myself another octave to play around with. All right, but that's certainly all the big stuff. Hopefully you enjoyed it, assuming you actually made it this far, but then again, how would you know otherwise? But otherwise, that is it for today's Ben's Junk. I'll talk to you again soon.